Welcome, I'm Aaron, and this is our Northstarjourney. Look, we got a bus. Okay, that's pretty worthless as entertainment unless you hear the backstory, right? Let me introduce the usual suspects. This is my beautiful wife, Sarah. This is our son, Andrew. Our daughter, Kennedy. Frank the Tank. And then there's me. By most standards, we're just your typical upper middle class suburban family. 2 kids and a dog. Most would say that we've made it, or we're living the dream, or something to that effect. But to us, life's just become a routine of work, dinner, family time, bedtime, repeat. We started asking the question, how can we get more out of this life? How can we make more memories, have more adventures, and just be happier? Like many before us, we stumbled upon the nomadic movement on YouTube, of all places. Initially finding the documentary Nomads movie, and later Bob Wells in the documentary he was in Without Bounds. As we tumbled down the rabbit hole, it became clear that we were going to need an adventure rig. We've considered many types of things, like an RV, a van, cabin, tiny house, and more. Given I have a background in construction and all things mechanical, building something completely custom was definitely a strong contender. Then a Google search came up with something we found known as a Skoolie. Turns out there's a whole movement of people across the nation and the world converting retired school buses into homes on wheels. After meeting a family firsthand that had converted an old school bus into a tiny home for 6, I decided it was really a good platform to consider. There are so many kinds of buses. There are school buses, city transit buses, tour buses, there's bloodmobiles, and back in the day, the Wander Lodge we found. Turns out there was a school bus that never became a school bus at all. It was just built as an RV. After scouring the internet for what seemed like months, we found a Craigslist ad for a 2003 Thomas. It had a rear engine, it was a charter bus, it was the length we were looking for, and it had underbase storage and rear air ride suspension. All in all, it was our second choice as far as an engine and a transmission. The only problem was there was 700 plus miles between us and the current owner. After a couple of phone conversations with the seller for more information, we slept on it for a couple of days. And then it was done. We're buying a bus. Well, as long as it's not crap and really ugly and, all of those other things that could go wrong. So the race was on. We had to make it across 4 states, make a decision, and get back on the road to have any chance of pulling this off. What are we doing this weekend?
Going to grandma's and buying a bus.
You excited about that? What's your favorite part?
Buying a bus.
It's a Friday afternoon after a long week. We dropped off the kids at Grandma's. Sarah and I hit the road, hoping to get a head start on the journey ahead of us. Leaving Minneapolis, we drove till about midnight, making it to Iowa City, Iowa, to get an early start, as we wanted to make a lunch in St. Louis, maybe have some time to do a little exploring if we're lucky. We're surprised when stopping for gas and our morning coffee at the Come and Go in Iowa, they had beer taps and growlers. For those not familiar with Minnesota's wonky no booze on Sunday and only watered down 3-2 beer in gas stations laws, this was a pretty shocking sight to us. We got back on the road, headed for St. Louis. We got into St. Louis a little before lunchtime, but luckily right after Pappy's Barbecue had opened for the day. If you're in St. Louis, don't miss this place. The food is truly amazing, and the staff is just the same.
My dad is always like, "Do you take this road?" I don't know. You just see what your phone says. The one to say water was Columbia.
Now, what lunch in St. Louis would be complete without a little tourist photos by the arch? And turns out the river was pretty severely flooded that day as well. Thing's huge. Angry Sarah.
Are you talking about me?
Angry Sarah. Smile. Sarah says we can't go up to the viewing deck. I still think that sounds like fun.
Nope.
Come on, it'll be fun. Llamas. You can't fall. There's probably not even opening windows.
Not even considering it.
Come on. After our adventure in downtown St. Louis, we had to hightail it towards our destination. Heading off into Illinois, we stopped just a stone's throw from Indiana. At this point in the story, we have to make a little apology because we were so full and sleepy after lunch that we totally forgot to press record on anything on the rest of the trip, or looking at the bus, and so on. So I'll fill you in on the details of kind of what took place over the rest of the day. We did arrive. We made it. We looked at the bus. We liked the bus. We drove the bus. Yeah, we bought the bus. So we headed back, and it rained like crazy almost all the way back to St. Louis. Our first photo of the bus was after it finally stopped pouring right before we got into St. Louis at a rest stop. Then after getting back on the road, and Sarah caught this one of the sun setting on our way back towards St. Louis as we just started to see the city lights. It did start to rain again as we were getting into St. Louis, and I typed in the GPS to take me to the hotel. In full disclosure, the wrong hotel, and of course we drove like an hour out of the way in the pouring rain before we realized what had happened. In my defense, I was driving a bus in the pouring rain, in the dark, through narrow lanes of road construction. I was just trying to stay alive and kind of trusted Google to get me there. Wrong. We rejoined our trip here the next morning as we head out. I'm going to warn you, Sarah decided to let her hair down, and some of her jingles and commentary are coming up next.
Definitely hilly, rolling acres over here in these parts. So far on this trip, we have yet to pass anyone. That's cool, slow and steady. Like watching the giant semis come up on my ass so fast. Makes me nervous. Just taking a Sunday drive, nothing to see here. Over the river, through the woods, to home we go. I miss my kids, I love them so, I can't wait to get home. We're gonna be so excited!
The last day of our journey was predominantly sunny and cool and uneventful. Of course, we learned you have to add at least another 50% to whatever the number of hours Google says it's going to take you to get there when you're driving a bus, but we did get home before dark, and everything worked pretty well. Sarah broke off and went to pick up the kids as I continued the last few miles home. Their reaction when they got home with her was priceless. What do you think of that? Alright, I'll go open the door. Stand back. It's gonna open pretty quick. What do you think, Kennedy?
But does this seat puff up like the other one?
No, this one doesn't go up and down. Should we get one of those? What do you think, Kennedy? You can run back and forth in here. We plan to document our progress as we build out this ultimate adventure rig. If you're curious or just looking for someone to tell you that it can be done, please subscribe and follow along. We all either take action to build our dreams or we work hard building someone else's. So I have to leave you with this. What's going to be your North Star journey? Thanks for coming along.